Today we'll be learning about the historical roots of education in the United States. Let's start off with the colonial period from 1620 to 1750. The American education began with the Jamestown colony, which was the Jamestown settlers. They were the first permanent English settlement in North America. This is a visual representation of how education looked like in the 13 colonies. These schools played an important role when teaching education to their settlers based on their beliefs and values. And there was differences within the colonies, and that was between females, people of color, and those that were less wealthy. Therefore, colonies were shaped and diverted by their cultures, created them in a way of setting each other apart depending on their religious beliefs and values. There was also a saying that religion was always the answer for these colonists. The Massachusetts Act of 1647 was a big landmark in education history. This overall was a significant to the history, saying and demonstrating that public education could contribute to the greater good of our country. Moving on to the early national period from 1775 to 1820, this is where the Constitution started to shape the education system. The U.S. Constitution was written in 1787, and the reason that this played a major role in shaping our education system was because it put no religion on top of better than any other religion, and it emphasized our amendments known as our Bill of Rights, and it is what has shaped our education system to what it is now. We then reached the Common School movement from 1820 to 1865. The Common School movement was an attempt to make education available to all. In this picture, you could see a teacher and all her students of different heights and shapes and sizes and color that are attending their common school. Here's an image of Horace Mann. He played an important influence in making education available to all, or in other terms, the Common School movement. His saying was that the key to developing our country and improving the quality of life for all people was making education available to all children. He was very outspoken, and he was the secretary of the Massachusetts State Board. Several major contributions of the Common School movement were that states and locals began to tax citizens directly to support public schools. Educators attempted to increase the attendance of underrepresented groups. States created state education departments. Educators organized schools by grade level, and states improved their teacher preparation. Overall, parents, citizens, and the people of the United States started to view education differently in their way of improving. Moving on to the Native American and their education. Educators at the time thought that assimilation, which is the process of socializing people to adopt to society's social normalcy, in other terms, taking Native Americans away from their tribes and their beliefs and their everyday way of living, would better suit them in the education. This is an image of Native Americans at a boarding school. They were meant to stay here until they learned the American way life of teaching and their basic skills. And the basic idea was to kill the Indian to save them, in other terms. We then have Brown versus Board of Education, where the Supreme Court ruled that separating children in public schools on a basis of race was unconstitutional. This was the primary base of the racial segregation that didn't transform overnight, but it started the work in order to provide equal public accommodations for all. We then have the United States Department of Education, which ultimately is what guides our education system today. And it is not perfect, but is something that continues to give education to all to the best of everybody's ability. We then have high school education evolution, which is now very, very important to all or most students that attend school in the United States of America. Of course, this wasn't the case before, but it is now in order to maintain a good, sustainable living